if you practice keeping these 3 commitments, it's very helpful. Commitment number 1 is just to do your best. Like, you just have to do your best. And that right there takes the weight off, because we are, especially if you're somebody who's caught in the mindset of perfectionism, when you just learn to recognize my best is good enough, at the end of the day, if there's toys on the floor and there's hair that wasn't ever brushed and somebody's got jam on their face or whatever, like that, if you can just say, this was the best I could do today, and accept your best, it's so freeing, you guys. It's so freeing. And then on the flip side of that, you accept the best of others. So sometimes your 2-year-old's best isn't what you expected, right?
Yes.
And we think that we want them to, just behave in all of these ways that we've taught them, but maybe they're tired, maybe they're, whatever. We have to learn to accept their best. So it's not just the best of ourselves, but it's accepting our best, accepting the best of others. And when you do that, you're like, oh, life was a little bit easier. So that's commitment number 1. Commitment number 2 is to be respectful to yourself. Okay? Respectful to yourself and respectful also to others on the flip side. And the way that looks is when we do feel like we're falling short and we want to beat ourselves up, the woulda, shoulda, couldas, and all of those, like, if I had only, or if I, hadn't said this or whatnot. If you're respectful to yourself, you wouldn't be so critical, right? You wouldn't be putting yourself down. You would be, again, they're close to accepting your best, but it's a little bit different because it's being respectful to yourself.
Yeah, kind of giving yourself grace.
Yes, and recognizing your divinity and who you are and that you're doing your best. And so let's be kind. Let's be generous with ourselves and with others. And so that's also helpful with toddlers, because I often would forget who they were that I was being entrusted to raise. And it's tempting to forget because you're just dealing with the 2-year-old kid or the 5-year-old kid or the teenage kid. I mean, all stages have some challenges, but when you pause and you realize, actually, this is a really great spirit. This is a really great person. And you almost just wonder, what are they going to do? What are they going to accomplish? What are they going to be? And you have to just attach yourself to that respect for them, that you treat them differently.
Yeah.
But
I feel like a lot of times with ourselves, and also sometimes when I look at my daughter who's 3, not so much the 1-year-old yet because she's still developing, but my daughter who's 3, the very same personality traits that frustrate me or that I just drive me up a wall, I'm like, no, she needs that in order to be who I know she's going to be and who she needs to be, and to survive and to thrive and to be everything that she's created to be. Like, yes, she is so strong-willed, but also she needs to be strong-willed, right, in order to be everything that she was made to be.
And that's just really seeing them and be respectful of who they are and learning to do that. Then it helps you to not try to change them, not try to control them, but just, respect for myself, respect for them.
And to channel it too.
Yes, which can be, these things aren't super easy, but they're just like things to remember that will help you. And the last one, really quick, is just to be present. Because we can be beating ourselves up about what we just did or did wrong, worrying about the past. And we can also be super anxious. Anxiety is a really top problem that people are faced with. So the more we can help give tools to not be anxious over the future, at the age of 3, we don't need to worry about where she's going to college yet. But yeah, people do. You can get really anxious about all of that. But just get present, because you don't want to let life pass you by. You don't want to miss all the moments. You don't want to be chasing happiness. You just want to be present. And so when you catch yourself worrying in either direction, you just say, no, I'm just going to enjoy this moment. So, it maybe I know it sounds a little easier than it is when you're in your situation, but those are some tools that I think will be super helpful to you.
No, that's so good. I love all of those.
3 commitments. Okay. So you've been recovering on this overachiever pathway, and I know you in the process have learned some things about your self-worth. Let's talk about that.
Yeah. I think we all kind of go through a a journey of discovering our self-worth, because we start off as like a little 3-year-old who believes that they're the greatest thing to ever walk the face of the planet. And my 2-year-old or my 3-year-old will come into the room and be like, Mom, look at my dress. I am so pretty. and it, you know, not just physical things, but also like who they are. And like, she has this mindset that like, I am the best thing to walk into this room.
Yes,
and it's true. But
I
lose
love
that over time, you know? And
hopefully not. Like the more you can keep and foster that, I say go for it. In fact, I love how you were saying before her favorite color.
Oh yes. Favorite color is pink.
Makes me so proud. In fact, let me just show everyone my shoes I have on today. I've got some pink boots, and you know, you can't beat the pink out of me.
Pink is important.
So, okay. So keep going. You were about your self-worth.
I've always tied it to my productivity and my accomplishments. And as a mom, that is not healthy because you do the same things all day long. You do the dishes. I feel like there's some days where I spend the entire day prepping food, eating food, cleaning food, prepping food, eating food, cleaning food. And that's the whole day. And so to have my self-worth and who
this highly educated, multilingual, just capable person doing that feels frustrating.
Well, and to measure whether I had value that day or whether what I was doing was important based on that is not healthy. There's a quote that I think it's Henry B. Eyring said, never underestimate the spiritual power of doing temporal things well. So that's been very helpful as a mom, where a lot of what you're doing feels just, you know, you're cleaning up and you're doing the diapers and things like that. I've noticed as my girls have gotten older, and even when Mandy, my oldest, was a baby, I remember days when she was fussy as a baby. This is so sad. But if she was fussy and we were around people, I felt so embarrassed because I was like,
how dare you have a fussy baby?
Right. Oh, how dare I? And so even at that young age, and as she's gotten older, there's more things. And so I recognized, oh, my normal, you know, what I've been trained to have my self-worth tied to my accomplishments, that cannot be connected to my children's behavior because that is so unhealthy for them and for me.
Yes.
And so that has been something that I've been on a journey to work through, is realizing that my children's behavior is not a measure of whether I'm doing a good job. And obviously we want to discipline and we want to teach them and we want to do all those things. And I think this goes beyond motherhood too, because I think there's a lot of areas in our life where we attach our self-worth to things that either we have little control over or things that aren't healthy. And really our worth doesn't change, but our perception of it does. And so I've had to recognize that that's not a healthy way to live and replace that with, okay, so where does my worth actually come from?
Have you figured it out yet?
Well, from my divinity.
I have some thoughts about that.
Yes. Well, let's hear what you say.
Well, I love where you're going with all of this because it is such a important thing to talk about. And I would say to you, and I think you know this, is that your worth just is. You know, I mean, that's the concept of Pretty Sisters. And the message I want to get across is that you are worthy. You just are. And if you think about your beautiful little children that are actually at my house right now, that my husband's babysitting for us while we record this, and they're so cute, they're perfect. You know, they're beautiful. And they came to you like that, right? When they came out, and there's nothing like that moment when you hold your child for the first time, and it's so miraculous and you feel so much love. Yeah. And they're just perfect, just straight from heaven. And that never changes. That's the thing. I mean, we want to, you know, attach so many different things to our value and our worth, but our worth just is. We are worthy. And we have to, the more we connect to that divine, you know, divinity inside of us, the more we can be happy. I think the more we can live our purpose and find meaning in life when we just truly understand who we are and accept ourselves in that way.
And I would be so sad if my daughter at the end of the day said, I was not a good person today, or I wasn't good today because I didn't eat my dinner, or because I wasn't able to make my bed today. I would be so sad if she tied her worth to that. And so what does our Father who created us think when we do that?
Yeah. Well, in our purpose, I mean, we're here, I believe, on this earth to learn and to grow, to become more like him. We were here for this probationary time to do that, to learn to be more Christ-like, to be more loving, to be more godlike, right? And so we're having all these experiences that teach us. These experiences aren't, I mean, there's good and bad experiences, but we're here to learn from them. So it's not like we want to have our kids not have any of them. They're supposed to have them. They're supposed to have all of the range of experiences and also the range of emotions. And I think we do live in a time and age where we sometimes either want to shove those emotions down or ignore them. But they're supposed to be signals and clues to help us develop, to help us learn and grow. So even when our kids are expressing themselves in a way that maybe we don't want them to culturally, that's still them expressing an emotion that we have to just pay attention to and solve. I mean, when they're hungry, they cry, and then that's how we know to feed them. You know, they learn, it's such a rudimentary process when they're little, and it gets a little bit more complicated as they age, but it isn't, it can be that simple if we learn to understand emotions and how to read them and not ignore them.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Like it's easier when they're little because they're crying or screaming. They get into teens and they maybe aren't expressing. It's like more of a guessing game and help them navigate it, especially if people are trying to hide them and try to meet expectations and shove them down and show up certain ways and being chameleons and all of that. It becomes harder, but that's what I believe this emotional intelligence that is being talked about more helps us to understand, that we don't just need to be learning how to be smart and learning knowledge and information, which is important. I'm a big fan of that, but we also need to understand how to learn how to read and navigate our emotions properly so that we can be mature in that way as well.